Welcome to Codex, History of Video Games. My name's Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week, the spooky season has begun, Mike.
It started. It has begun.
We are 12 days into the month of October. We haven't talked about any spooky games yet. But I'm too spooked to talk about spooky games. Delilah, the cat, I'm pointing in my background as if there's a cat so here. The cat is at your house.
She's going to be going ham this episode. And I was going to try to control it, but there's no way to control it. She's just going to go ham. So
no, this cat can't
she's
be
our
tamed.
guest today. So that's fine. Yeah, today we're doing Splatterhouse, which is a game that I actually read about in this book right here. Here, I'm going to show you the book real quick. So remember when we talked about this book? It was From Ants to Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horror video game book. It's a big boy book I got. It's in here, and then I was actually watching. There's a channel on YouTube I want to shout out because it kind of reminded me about this. But there's a channel called Mass Replay. Have you heard of this?
No.
And what the Mass Replay person does is they play old arcade games, emulated, but with an arcade controller, like a joystick and buttons. And they have like a program going on in the background to count credits. So they calculate how much money it costs to play the game in like the 80s. And then they inflation calculator it. And then they also have like a predatory game scale, like how much stuff is out of your control. They have like a formula they use for that.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
It's really interesting. I'm kind of obsessed with it. Every time he has a new episode that comes out, I watch it. Like, I'm really into it. But they just did Splatterhouse because this game is originally an arcade game. We're going to talk about the arcade version mostly today. And I was just like, oh, that would be a great little one-off thing from a horror game standpoint to do because, one, it's older arcade. So, like, I played it and I had a lot of time to play it, which was good because it's, like, not that long. And then also on top of that, it's kind of what brings a lot of stuff into gaming. So it's ahead of its time. And I never really thought of it that way. And then Mass Replay brought that up and I'm like, that's a good point. And then the more I was like looking into it, I'm like, oh yeah, you can find like references. Essentially, to give you a real quick summary of what this game is, it's Namco decided to take all horror movie like premises and stories and IPs and shove them all into one game. And that's what Splatterhouse is.
Like was that Dead by Daylight that has like Jason and
yeah,
like Jigsaw, like all of the horror movie bad guys?
It's like that, but in 1988, and they did not ask for anyone's licensing, and they just went for it. So this is why it's really funny. This game is just so interesting to me. So let's do the grime facts, and then we'll go ahead and get into the game itself. So it was developed by Namco, and it came out in 1988 in Japan first. I think it was 1989 in North America. The originally released on arcade, but later ported to TurboGrafx 16, the FM Towns Marty, which we'll talk about in a bit, and PC. There's a Namco collection, I think, on Virtual Console, or it might even be on Switch now, where you could play the game at, or you could just emulate it. Honestly, I don't really feel guilty telling people to emulate arcade games from the 1980s. Like, that's not gonna bum me out. I mean,
you're gonna find an arcade machine to drop your quarters in, and then what? Namco's gonna get some of those quarters? Come on.
Yeah, I don't even have a number of copies sold for this one because it was arcade data from the late 80s. Like, there's nothing really there. I can tell you it was way more popular in Japan than it was in the United States, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit later too. The genre or gameplay style, it is a platformer first and a beat 'em up second. And we'll kind of talk about... No, actually, I would say they're both platformer and beat 'em up. It's both of them at the same time, but there's it's limited beat 'em up is how I would describe it. The how long to beat is 1 hour just to beat the game, an hour and a half for the sides, and 2 hours for completionist. I don't really know what they mean by the sides and completionists. Now, I do know one thing unique about the arcade version and then the later version subsequently is there are different routes you can take in a level, which is kind of cool because it's kind of like optional bosses, essentially. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. There was no Metacritic score for this because it was so old, but it was kind of all over the place from the ports. Like, I see an 8 from GameSpy and then a 4.7 from GameSpot. So it's like kind of all over the place. But let's go ahead and just dive right into the plot right away. So I grabbed this directly from the game manual from the TurboGrafx 16 release. And because it turns out that manuals from arcade games, they're mostly just installation guides on troubleshooting the machine. That's all they are. They don't have like they don't have any pictures.
It's not like there are people at the machine that are like trying to drop their quarter in looking through the manual, right? Like
exactly.
The manual is the person who owns the thing doesn't actually care about the game that much.
If anything, the manual is like that has like the plot of it is printed on the machine for people to see.
Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and I'm just going to read this whole plot summary from the TurboGrafx 16 manual. Okay. And maybe just for a fun game, Tyler, just think about like horror movies and how much of this stuff you think you associate with horror movies. Okay.
Okay.
So the title is A Boom of Thunder, Darkness, a Scream, and then okay. So the place was called the West Mansion, but to all who knew its legend, it was known as Splatterhouse. It was once the home of the famed parapsychologist Dr. West. There was a research lab in the house where Dr. West conducted some of his most gruesome experiments. It was even said that it was his house that he created the most hideous creatures that ever walked the face of the earth. But no one knew for sure. Dr. West had not been seen or heard from in years, and no one who has ever gone into the mansion has lived to tell the tale. Okay, this is where I'm going to pause because there's more. But
spooky.
Why, if there was a house that people went into and never lived to tell the tale, shouldn't the government get involved? Like, what is going on?
Like, you think they want to go in there? Where nobody's ever lived to tell the tale?
Again, this is me like, being extra picky here. But, I feel like if there were horrific monsters, the government would somehow find a way to militarize them. Okay, here we go.
Are you trying to say that this game is not realistic?
I know. So I'm being extra critical of this silly game, but it is pretty fun. Okay, here's the real kicker for the horror movie trope. Rick and his girlfriend Jennifer were parapsychology majors at the local university. They were both very interested in the works of Dr. West, as he was the most famed parapsychologist in the world. One day, they decided to visit the abandoned West Mansion as part of a project they were working on in school. As they walked toward the house, it started to rain. They entered. All went dark. Lightning cracked through the sky. There was a frantic scuffle, then a scream, and suddenly Jennifer was gone. Rick's unconscious body was covered with blood. Hours later, Rick awoke to a fantastic horror. He was alone and drenched with blood, but the most terrifying thing of all this was that a hideous mask covered his face. He had read tales of this terror mask in Dr. West's writings. It was said to have ancient spiritual powers. As his only hope, Rick must depend on this mask to give him the strength and courage to find Jennifer. Now, Rick's fight has begun. Okay, Dang. So we got a lot of horror movie tropes. And again, for a 1980s game, it's an arcade game nonetheless. They're actually doing a lot here, right? So you got the couple, the young college couple going into an abandoned mansion. Terrible things happen. Now you got to solve the problem. My whole thing that I really stood out to me is the parapsychology thing, because I think they got that straight from Ghostbusters, because Ghostbusters came out in 1984 and then Splatterhouse was 1988. So I think they just were like, let's go to Ghostbusters. I mean, parapsychology had been a thing before, but Ghostbusters, that's their major at the college in New York. So I just love this game because the folks at Namco are like, let's just take everything and throw it all in one game and let's go for it. So that's your basic plot synopsis. Now I'm going to tell you some things about this game. First of all, the terror mask is just Jason Voorhees' mask from Friday the 13th. So not even hiding it.
Like a hockey mask.
It's just a hockey mask. And that gets changed in the ports for legal reasons. But in the arcade game, Rick is just this ripped dude walking around with a Jason. He could be Jason Voorhees. If you didn't know the game, you would think you were playing as Jason Voorhees. And this was a Friday the 13th game. So let's get into the gameplay aspects of this. I called this a beat 'em up platformer in the Grime Facts, but the beat 'em up aspect is very minimal. You can't go up and down the y-axis. You can only go left and right. You're just kind of going back and forth and hitting things with all manners of weapons, and you punch by default and kick by default, but then you can pick up these weapons, and they have like a meat cleaver, a wooden board, a throwable wrench, an axe, and even a shotgun. And the shotgun has like very limited ammo. But these kind of break up the kicky punchy nature of the game. There is a special move where you can like slide jump kick. Like you can jump and then slide down and like slide across the floor, like kick all the enemies. But when I played this on the Wii U Mini, like I wrote this before I actually was going into it, but I couldn't pull it off. I couldn't figure it out.
Couldn't get the move to work.
Yeah, and then I was just like, you know what? This game is so much easier to just mash the button instead of actually doing the special move. Like the one combo they give you, you're like, it's actually better to just mash A or whatever instead. Personally, the meat cleaver felt the best to me as far as the weapons goes. Like it felt like it felt really heavy. And I think that has to do with like how the animation and the sound works in the game. Like it just felt like you had weight and power to it, and it would always like one hit things, which I thought was really cool. One funny thing about the game is you can just like I said, spam the attacks and usually beat bosses. So there was like the faux alien creatures in the first part. Yeah, that's another thing. They have like they call them leeches. They look just like the face, like not the face hugger, but the chest bursters from Alien.
Okay.
That's the first boss. So it's like they really were just like trying to grab everything.
Just grabbing all the tropes and just throwing them into a game. They're like, it's a horror game. Be scared of all the scary things.
Exactly. And the fun part though is like you could just like spam A as they come at you and switch sides and just beat them all up, and that's how I did it. And then the poltergeist, I kind of want to get I get into the bosses a little later, so I'll tell you about the poltergeist ghost right now, because the poltergeist boss is cool because you're just fighting inanimate objects. So there's like a chair that flies at you, and then there's these knives that fly at you, and then finally a painting that flies at you, and it's just a really silly boss fight. But the one cheap shot that's in it is after you beat the painting, that's where the boss ends. But if you don't move out of the way, there's a chandelier that falls from the ceiling, and it can definitely kill you and make you restart the whole thing again.
Oh, that's so annoying, where they're just like, you just needed to know that was there. Like, there was no way for you to actually be good at this game. You just had to memorize it.
Exactly. And the funny thing about it, too, is like, I just ran into that in Silksong, where there's the first act boss blows up, and if you don't know that, it'll definitely kill you. And then you'll have to redo the whole boss fight over again. That happens.
That's so frustrating.
Yeah, it is pretty frustrating. There is minimal platforming challenges, but it does exist. Like there's holes in the floor you can jump over. There's also like a sewer level where you're attacked by these water ghosts, but also I will call them spiky buoys that float towards you and float away, and you got to like jump over them. Actually, speaking of the like platforming part, like so I mentioned it before, but there's actually a boss in the game that's kind of optional, which is interesting, right? Like you don't really think of optional bosses in arcade games from the 1980s, but there is a part where if you fall down a hole, and I forget what stage it's in, you actually end up fighting this boss that like raises zombies. I didn't look up his name. If I was a better podcaster, I would look up the name of the boss. But it's just really cool to me that you can actually, if you platform well, you can skip that part. If you fall down the hole, now you're kind of being punished and you got to fight
the optional boss.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the levels, I guess I should say the stages before this, it's usually like a section where you're like fighting enemies and platforming, and then you either climb a ladder or fall down a hole, and then there's a little bit more, and then there's a boss. That's usually how it's done. Again, though, you can beat these levels if you know what you're doing in like minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I actually wonder what the speed running times are for it. It's probably really quick. So I will say, if you give this game a go, yeah, I just said that it's very, very short. The stages may be like a minute or two long once you get to know the mechanics. So definitely like it'll be frustrating at first, but you'll get through it really quickly.
Speed run record, Stormcrow 56K. Their speed record is 13 minutes 22 seconds 883 milliseconds. So this is down to the milliseconds.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The game
5 months ago.
Oh, nice, dude. I like that they're still playing it. So I kind of wish the arcade version was a bigger hit in the US. Like I think a cabinet of this game would be really cool, but like, so I actually have a picture here of what the Japanese cabinet looks like. And it's kind of funny because the art and graphical style are like very cartoony. compared to what the game actually is.
Yeah, it looks like they want little kids to play. Like, yeah, this spooky
Yeah.
game. Like, it's spooky like how Scooby-Doo is spooky, you know?
Yeah, even though the game is actually like really gory, which we'll kind of get into later as well when we talk about the development of it. But yeah, I should also mention now that I think about it. Yeah, I mentioned this before. So I played the arcade version of the game. The TurboGrafx 16 and the later home versions have major differences, as like, well, I guess major as in like kind of taking away. I'm gonna say taking away from the spirit of the game. I think I am, because they definitely kind of clean it up a little bit. So this is kind of where I think the game's ahead of its time, but we'll talk about the legacy part. The game has 7 stages. And the interesting thing about Splatterhouse is, unlike other beat 'em ups, like I always think of like The Simpsons or like Turtles in Time. That's kind of my generation as far as like what we played beat 'em up style. But Splatterhouse, if you die and lose lives, it sends players back to the checkpoints like at the beginning of the level you're on. So you know how like most games your character will die and it'll say like continue up top and then it'll just spawn you right there.
Mm-hmm.
Splatterhouse makes you go all the way back to the level beginning. So in that sense, it's like it's not letting you just like cheese it with credits like a lot of games.
Gotcha.
Like those kind of games did.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's necessarily, if you consider that like,
It's
I
like,
don't know how to.
I feel like it's better in terms of making like a probably a better, like objectively better game. I totally understand it from the perspective of, well, if we tell them, you know, you have 10 seconds to put a quarter in right now and you won't lose any progress, they'll probably just put the quarter in. And I respect it from that angle. I'm like, look, make you the whole point of this in an arcade scenario is to like get people to put quarters in. So do what you got to do, you know?
I was trying to think if it's like exploitative thing to do, you know, but I'm like, it's arcade. You're trying to make money. So that makes more sense to have it take you back to the beginning of the stage.
Yeah, I've
just start off from the middle.
They're all. I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of exploitative, because like we're all just going for dopamine hits here. It's video games, right?
Exactly, and that's the thing is, I'm like 9 times out of 10, like you're a person that put a quarter into a machine, and you're not going to really care if you die or not. You're like, oh, that was fun, and you're going to move on. Like that's fine. I didn't write this in my notes, but something that kind of upset me. I did not beat the game. All right, I did not beat the game. I sat and I played it for about 30 minutes yesterday, and I enjoyed it and I had a good time, and then I saved the state on my mini being like, this is awesome, I'll pick it up from here tomorrow, right? And then when I went to go pick it up, my save states didn't work because the arcade emulator I was on just didn't accept save states, so I couldn't go back, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna call it. I've played like half the way through the game. I got to the Biggie Man boss, so we'll talk about that. But speaking of bosses, oh wow, I didn't even mean to do it that way. So each stage has a boss. There's leeches in stage 1, which are just the chest bursters from Alien. The level 2 boss is the poltergeist I talk about. The level 3 boss is Biggie Man. Biggie Man is a boss that has like chainsaws for arms, very Evil Dead style, like kind of like giving a nod to Evil Dead 2, I think. And then level 4 boss is, they call it the Evil Cross. It's just like a cross with like heads floating around it. Level 5 is actually, spoilers, mutated Jennifer.
Oh, that's right. No.
Jennifer got mutated into a monster and you gotta fight her.
Wow. What's the point of even playing now that you've spoiled it for me?
I know, right? Sorry I ruined it for everybody. The level 6 boss is called Mother, and that's the house itself. So you learn like the house is alive, like it infers it, and that you have to go kill it, essentially. And then the level 6 boss, or level 7 boss, is, they call it Hell Chaos, but it's actually just Dr. West that got transformed by the Terror Mask. So in a way, the Terror Mask is kind of like the, like, what's the movie where you get a power and, oh, you know what it's like? You know what it's like, Tyler? We're going to bring it back to Destiny 2. It's like the light in Destiny 2. You know how Gaul got the light and he was evil already, so he's just going to be extra evil?
Yeah.
It's like, or it's like genie powers in Aladdin. It's like, so the Terror Mask, apparently it's like, if you're good, it like gives you powers to fight evil. If you're evil, it just makes you more evil. So it turned Dr. West into this horrifying monster.
Oh, he was already evil is the implication there. Wow.
I think that's what they're kind of trying to imply. It doesn't say that in the text, but it's implied. And the cool thing is a game like this is actually kind of trying to tell a story through the gameplay, which I feel like not a lot of games do or should do more, you know?
Yeah, or at
So,
least didn't back in those days.
yeah, didn't back in those days is a better way to put it. Lastly, an observation I had while playing the game is that the levels, especially in the beginning, feel like you're in a haunted house. And I mean that in that the bad guys like pop out of the walls or come down from the ceiling. And I just think it's really endearing as just like a nod to like, if you're a haunted house person, check out Splatterhouse because it would feel like an arcade haunted house, is what it really goes for. All right, so let's get into the development of the game. And the primary source I used is there's actually a development history interview that I found, and it's on this it's on a website called shmuplations.com, and it's what it is an interview from Namco's official magazine called NG Magazine. And this is a magazine I learned that ran from 1983 to 1993.
Dang, a 10-year run of this magazine.
Mm-hmm. Where they interview the actual like developers that worked on the game. So I'm just going to start out with, this is a direct quote from the chief planner at Namco, Kazumi Mizuno. So it says, quote, "Our design goal for Splatterhouse, simply put, was to make a serious horror game. There was an old Western arcade game called Death Race. Side note, we talked about that on the show before, where you ran over and killed people in your car to get the most points. It was banned on account of its cruelty, but today that kind of stuff has become commonplace in violent TV/movie scenes. So it seemed odd to us that only video games should be forbidden to show the same things." End quote. And this quote, to me, is why this game was ahead of its time. So this is 4 years before Mortal Kombat came out, and they were being super gory in this game. Like, enemies explode into like guts and viscera and stuff when you hit them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just not something that was really done. But the funny thing is, this never had the controversy that like Mortal Kombat had or any other bloody game like that. So, and I think it's because it didn't hit in the US. Like, it didn't get the popular run that Mortal Kombat did. So they did run into some issues in development at Namco because the game was so bloody. So they did change all the blood from red to green to make it less gory. This is in the arcade version. It's green. However, it worked better because the backgrounds were so dark that it's easier to see the green because it's like a neon green. So it makes it actually seem less, it makes it seem more icky to me that they used green because things just exploded to green goo.
You're like, when it's red, you're like, I at least know what that is. When it's green,
Yeah.
you're like, I don't even know what that is.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So the dev team went over schedule. Splatterhouse took 1 year and 2 months to make. But again, like, they're putting out arcade games in 1 year and 2 months. That's nothing compared to development now.
Yeah.
That's so quick. All the sounds are actually from the developers. I thought this was really funny. They did not hire any out of house voice actors. So it's just the people on the team making the noises.
I wonder how much of a thing that was back in the 80s. Like, how did you hire like voice actors for things in the 80s? Because like, what kind of real acting do you need there? It's not like they're recording full voice lines or anything. You're just making noises, right?
That's true. I wonder if they would just like find a buddy or something to be like, can you just scream into this microphone real quick?
Yeah. Can you just like make a weird, like, what? Look at this bat. What kind of noise do you think it makes? And the person's like, bah, bah, bah. And they're like, yep, that's the noise this bat makes.
That's it. You nailed it. Perfect bat noises. Okay. The composer Yoshinori Kawamoto has a funny anecdote about this in the interview. He says, quote, "I remember Mizuno asked me to change the sound when you behead an enemy. Although I was a little annoyed because I had tried to make a sound for it. I had already made a sound for it. I redid it anyway. However, that too got rejected. And so did a bunch more takes. So I stopped and tried to ask myself again what I was doing wrong. When Mizuno came over to my desk, took a big deep breath and pushed all the air to the front of his lips, then let it out. It made a explosive pop sound. That became the sound of Rick beheading enemies with a machete. Just this pop goes their head." End quote. So it's just a pop. That's the sound it makes. So they're kind of having fun with the sound and development and stuff like that too. The devs wanted the scary characters to actually be scary though. They're trying to go for real horror in the game. And Mizuno says this was very difficult. So they tried to give the characters unpredictable, weird movements and like mess with the timing of the animation just to make them feel off with like different angular postures. And it reminded me personally of did you see the new It
Mm-mm.
movies that were on HBO? It's part 1 and 2. So Pennywise does this really like off kilter movement that's definitely like changed with like CGI or camera tricks to make him move like really angular and fast. Like he kind of skitters across the screen. That's really unnerving. And I think that's kind of what they were going for with this game to some extent. They don't really pull it off as much as say like other games do, but yeah. So, okay. So now the interview takes the time to focus on stage 5, the story, because in that part of the story, that's where Rick reunites with Jennifer. And as I mentioned before, in our major spoiler, Jennifer becomes a monster, right?
Does he at
So
least save her and like turn her back from being a
yeah,
monster?
so
Okay.
once you fight her, you save her. But yeah, so this is what the planner Haya Paya says. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's HAYA hyphen PAYA. About how most games before Splatterhouse involve you saving the girl and everyone living happily ever after, but they didn't want to do that. They said they even made a point to have Jennifer in the boss fight come back to human form and say, "Help me," to add more to the story. Like something was not like they were kind of trying to again in the gameplay have these little subtle hints and tell stories. So when you're fighting Jennifer as a big monster, she'll go back to her normal self and say help me and then turn back into a monster again to kind of give you like a idea of like, oh, she could still be saved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this game is very much a mix of a bunch of different horror IPs from movies, and this was completely intentional. I want to now share a brief interaction between Mizuno and Haya in this interview. So Haya says, quote, "Speaking of which, one of the fun things for players, I think, will be identifying all the different movie references and influences in the game." Then Mizuno says, "During the location tests, I heard kids saying, 'Oh wow, this is from XXX.' When I heard that, it was like bullseye, just what we'd hoped for, and a big smile came to my face without me even realizing it." End quote.
Totally intentional copyright infringement. Just not a
Exactly.
problem.
That's what's so funny to me is they got away with it too, right? Like no one cared that they just ripped all these horror IPs in the late 80s and
You
it
can
was
do a
fine.
lot hiding behind parody too. If you just say, it's a parody. You could
That's
like that's
true.
how Conker's Bad Fur Day gets away with like ripping off a bunch of like The Matrix and like Saving Private Ryan and like a whole bunch of famous movies. Just it's a parody. Like that's why Spaceballs gets away with ripping off Star Trek and Star Wars, right? It's a
It,
parody.
it's true. Yeah, and that's kind of like where some of the legacy of this game comes from. Is I'm like they really were trying to make a slasher movie arcade game, and I think they pulled it off by just combining all this stuff from all these different horror movies. But before we jump into the legacy, really quick, I want to mention some stuff here. So the game came out on arcades, and then it was ported to the TurboGrafx 16, the FM Towns Marty, and PC. So really quick, what the deuce is an FM Towns Marty? Let's get into that
I
real
do not
quick.
know. Please tell me.
It
Unfamiliar
is
with
a
this.
1993 Japanese exclusive console developed by Fujitsu. That's what the FM Towns Marty is. We could definitely do a forgotten console on this one. I don't even know. I didn't check eBay. I wonder if eBay would have them. Do you mind
I'm
checking
looking it up.
eBay while I
Yeah.
go through this? So while you look that up, I'm going to cover the differences between the arcade version that I played and the console ports. So the first is the arcade version has an opening where Rick and Jennifer are running through the storm into the mansion, and then there's an exterior shot of the mansion, and you hear Jennifer screaming. In the console version, you just see the exterior of the mansion with no sound effects. In stages 1 and 2, there is no meat cleaver. There is only a wooden board. So they got rid of the blade weapon in the like ported versions. Again, trying to kind of censor some stuff a bit here. That's what you'll notice with this. The weapon for stage 4 bosses changed from an axe to a golden meat cleaver, so that's the only meat cleaver in the game. But I think by making it gold, they're kind of making it seem a little bit more cartoony than your standard meat cleaver, so that kind of gets away with that. The crawling hand in stage 5. Oh, I forgot about this. In stage 5, there's a hand that flips you off. This is a beautiful moment. They got rid of that in the port, and I just want to say, like, it's like a bunch of hands in the background, and then one of them flips you off, which I think is really funny as an added bonus. So the death of the mother boss in level 6 is changed. So in the arcade game, the mother spills like a bunch of gross goo on the ground. They call it embryonic fluids. It's gross, right? But then in the port version, they just kind of do your standard issue. You know that explosion where it's like and it's like little blow up circles. They do
Mm-hmm.
that for the
Oh.
the final boss has some different attacks in the port of the game, and then the end cutscene is changed from the original arcade ending. So the mask breaks from Rick's face, followed by a shot of him walking away from the mansion, you know? And then in the ending of the TurboGrafx 16 version, the mask explodes, followed by a picture of West Mansion burning, and then the credits roll. And then it just says end. So the port actually has a way darker ending than the arcade version. Like in the arcade version, Rick gets away with Jennifer, right? But it doesn't happen that way in that. So anyway, now these are the edits that were made for the North American TurboGrafx 16 version. These ones specifically, and I think you'll see a pattern here. Okay, so the Terror mask is changed from white to red with black accents to make it not look like Jason Voorhees anymore. The cathedral arches are removed from the stage 4 boss chamber background, and the altar is removed from the cutscene. The inverted cross boss is replaced with a severed head.
Okay.
And then the final boss's grave is switched from a wooden cross to a tombstone. So they got rid of all the religious imagery and the copyrighted materials.
Yeah. I wonder if TurboGrafx, if they had like a anti-religious, like, because Nintendo was that way where they were like, in North America, like, we're not doing any religious iconography at all.
Yeah.
I wonder if TurboGrafx had the same thing.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, but the big thing here, I think, is you can see, like, they're making it less graphic, but once again, like, this is like pre-Mortal Kombat, and they're making these changes. So we haven't had that big violence in video game push yet, right? So let's just talk about the legacy of the game, and I think Mass Replay really nails it in that this game was ahead of its time and like pushing the limits of what you can put into a video game. And while it is gory for gory's sake, it's kind of fun it's just fun to play. Like the game, it doesn't feel too punishing for an old arcade game. There are some cheap shots like that chandelier I mentioned, but like it's just kind of silly fun, right? And I feel like if I saw this in an arcade today, I'd play it for sure.
Yeah.
Like I kind of hope that it shows up in one of my local, like, you pay a flat rate and go to an arcade things. But Splatterhouse actually saw 2 sequels and then a remake. So Splatterhouse 2 and 3 released on the Sega Genesis, and then there was a 3D remake in 2010 that was just called Splatterhouse that came out on PS3 and Xbox 360. I don't really know much more about it. It doesn't look like it was received very well because honestly, think about it. That's like over 20 years since the original Splatterhouse. So I don't know if it was like very popular or not. If you played it though, let me know because I'm really curious. Now I want to buy it for 360 because I'm curious.
Yeah, it got some pretty poor reviews here.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But the game feels like a love letter to classic horror films and does a really great job. Also, it helps bring the story aspect to late 80s arcade games. Like they try to do more with story, which is weird because you think a horror video game that steals a bunch of IP and then they're the ones that decide to make a story, right? It's kind of strange to do. Finally, I want to get rid of there's an unsubstantiated rumor about Splatterhouse and why it wasn't popular in the United States. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's because of all the satanic imagery and gore. However, like I couldn't find any news story or anything that substantiated this at all. Like I was looking through like documents and stuff to try to find it. And other people also like in their like fan research, because there was like a couple of different fan websites I went to were also like, yeah, we don't know why this is like a rumor that spread around. But I would say the only reason it probably wasn't popular in the US is because like maybe just they weren't into this kind of game at the time, right? I mean, there were a lot of people that were into horror movies, but I would say that like this kind of gory stuff, maybe also it could be the arcade owners that thought it wouldn't sell. That's more believable to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like would an arcade owner want to risk it and pay for Splatterhouse and then some mom comes in and gets all angry?
Yeah,
right? That's I think more realistic than saying that it was because of all this imagery. So in a way it's like, yeah, the religious imagery was there, but it was never like reported on in the news as being like, this is going to ruin our children like this other satanic panic stuff was, right? Like it's just It doesn't have that going for it though. But now you might be able to find it. Like I think it's considered like a cult classic by many an arcade aficionado, right? So also my Miyu Mini. So on archive.org there is a curated list of like games that you should download for like your devices, right? Obviously, you have to legally own a copy of the game.
Of
right?
course.
Obviously.
Right.
But Splatterhouse is on that list. And I trust that list as being like, oh, these are games that were like picked by a bunch of different people that should be on here. So it's kind of cool that Splatterhouse, specifically the Japanese version, which is what I played, was like chosen to be on this list of arcade games that show up. So I think it's safe to say that it's a pretty well received game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's safe to say.
But yeah, that's Splatterhouse. I know it's kind of a weird one. It's definitely something I know Tyler had never heard of it.
Yeah, and now I want to check out this reboot on 360 as well. So maybe I'll try to acquire a copy of that.
Legally, yeah, and we could do a weird episode on it too. I know like this is one of those games where I am doing this because I find it interesting. I know like it's not the popular ones that everyone wants us to do all the time, but like this is something that I think is important.
It's your podcast. You talk about whatever you want.
Exactly. Now, will people listen? No, but that's fine.
maybe not.
Maybe not. But yeah, so that's Splatterhouse. I don't know what I'm gonna do for the next Halloween game. I gotta think about it. So we'll probably be in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Should we play something? Maybe we could do like a bonus let's play of a spooky game because we did Slender Man. Was that last year? We did Slender Man.
We did Slender Man the 8 pages last year. Yeah. So we got So next Monday will be the 20th, and then the 27th is the one before Halloween, so it's kind of perfect. So yeah, we could do something on the 27th maybe. That would work for me. What should we play though? Ooh, I mean, I need to play Resident Evil 2. Send us emails,
tell us what to play.
Yeah, we could play I'm actually doing a stream. Oh, this is actually kind of good to plug. My friend Annika makes board games on Casilla, but they have a like an improvised cryptid radio show game coming out that sounds really good, but they asked me to do a let's play with them on Twitch where we're playing and hunting Bigfoot. That'll be on Tuesday. so if you want, on the 14th on Twitch, I'll be on Twitch with my friend Annika, my friend Chris, and we're hunting Bigfoot.
All right. You have to post that on the Discord and we'll let everybody know.
I will post it in the Discord. Yeah, it's going to be, I posted it to my Instagram story, but we're going to be doing that on Tuesday. So yeah, I'm excited. It'll be a fun time. But maybe we'll play the Bigfoot game again. I don't know. I gotta buy the game, so it'll be nice to get like 2 good things out of it. So maybe we'll play the Bigfoot game. It looks ridiculous. So yeah. But with that, Tyler, what you been playing?
Final Fantasy Tactics: The Evilus Chronicles. Evilus? Always thought it was Evilus, but then in the voiceover, because the new version, the remake has voiceovers, they say Evilus. So I guess that's what it is. Evilus.
Mm. It's always fun in a video game where you find out you've been pronouncing something wrong the whole time.
Yeah, and they must say it in Final Fantasy 12, and I don't know how they say it there. I just don't know. But anyway, it's very fun. It's a little. There are some things about it that feel like a little tedious, where there are certain like job things that you can get that you have to like level up other jobs for, which is fine, except for every battle takes forever. And so like the grinding part of it is like, gosh, everything just takes so long. And if a character dies, falls in battle and like 3 full turns pass, you lose them forever. There's permadeath in this game.
What?
So you can grind up characters and then lose them. So maybe there's a thing I'm missing here that makes it less tedious than what it sounds like to me. But I'm like, I can see these things that I like, these tactics that I want to use in battle. And I go, I'm going to have to do some level grinding to get the things, which is not, I don't love it, but not inherently bad. But then I get really discouraged when I go, yeah. And then they could just die in the battle and I lose them forever. Dude, so I could I could waste time grinding and then losing people. And so I'm like, and I guess probably what people will say is, well, if somebody dies in battle, restart the battle. Like, I mean, I guess, but I don't know.
That's very Darkest Dungeon to me. Yeah. That's what happened to me in Darkest Dungeon.
I don't love like, in permadeath games like that, where you just say like, oh, one of your guys died, so just like restart the battle. I'm like, well, you're just sort of you're like not really playing the game as intended. I think in that sense. And so it's like I want to play it and have lose people along the way to have it have stakes, but I also don't want to waste time on those things when, it's a strategy game. It's a turn-based JRPG. Like strange BS happens all the time where you just like a random crit happens or you miss an attack or whatever. And like, oh, now that person's dead forever. And that doesn't feel great. So maybe there's just something I'm missing there about like, oh, you actually don't have to grind these things out or things like that. But I've been doing okay on it so far. I did drop the difficulty down to easy. And even then some of the fights are hard. So maybe I'm just bad.
Shame.
Maybe this is a skill issue thing, but yeah. But otherwise I'm having fun with it.
There's no shame anymore with easy difficulty. Okay. Just do it to play the game and have fun. Yep. Yeah, that reminds me of Darkest Dungeon though, where you'd level a guy up and then lose him and then you just feel super bad. It's a bummer. But
yeah, it's not fun when that happens. I'm not like, oh man, this is so fun. I like that happens and I go, wow, I spent 2 hours grinding this character and it's gone. Like it's just gone. And there's just nothing. It just doesn't feel good. Feels like a waste of time.
I think Fire Emblem has a mode like that too, where
you
lose the character. And I know also
it's an XCOM thing too. A lot of tactical strategy games do that.
People in Silk Song that are playing Silk Song with permadeath. Doesn't that sound crazy? Like you die and you go back to the very beginning of the game.
No thanks.
No thank you. I die all the time in that game for really dumb reasons. Oh man.
No.
It's crazy. Yeah. That's what I've been playing more of, is Silk Song.
Silk
But
Song?
I also have 2 other games I've been playing. I got Battlefield 6.
Ooh, how's that? I keep hearing things. It seems like every other Battlefield game does okay.
I really like it.
Yeah.
I'm really having a good time. And I I returned Borderlands to Steam. Borderlands 4. They let me return it because I was having such a hard time. Even though I'd played it longer than 2 hours, they just did the return, which is great. And then I used that money to buy Battlefield 6 because they're both $70 games. So I'm not out any extra money or anything, which is nice. Like I feel like I got something. But here's the funny thing about Battlefield 6. Unlike Borderlands 4, it's supposed to be like technologically advanced. It compiles shaders so quickly. It boots up so quickly. And it just works. It just works really, really well. And I'm having a great time.
The bar is low if that's like I boot the game up and it just works.
It just works. Honestly, like I know that's such a low bar, but after the debacle of Borderlands 4, it also made me realize that like, hey, sorry to all the Gearbox developers out there, but there is something wrong with your game. Like clearly something wrong with it. If like because I kept trying to tell me, well, I don't have to get into this, but I'm going to complain because I think I was talking to AI for about 10, 12 emails. That's what made me upset even more because it changed every time. Yeah. And they kept having me do different Windows installation checks, but their instructions were also always slightly off. And I'm like, this isn't right. So, but they kept trying to blame my Windows installation. And I'm like, it's not Windows. It says memory leak. Like there's a memory leak in your game. That's what's going on right now.
Well, and you have a fresh install of Windows. It's like, okay, I mean, what more can we do here? Like a reformat, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Also, they kept emailing me being like, what's going on? What's going on? To check in. And so finally I emailed back. I was like, I returned your game to Steam. And I just said that. And they're like, we're sorry to see you go. We hope you come back. And it's like, you're a AI. Just like, yeah. That makes it even dirty. I'm going to just talk some smack real quick. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Randy Pitchford is telling everyone on Twitter to go to their support to get this fixed. And then you're going to have your support be AI crap. Yeah. I said the C word. Well, wait, I can't say that.
The crap word.
The crap word. like that's what your plan is to fix your game? Because if they're not AI, then what's going on in your customer support department? That's what I want to know. Like no one's talking to each other then. Like that's what's happening. So
yeah. I don't trust customer support at any software thing like that, especially for games where it's like they're going to tell you to do like the same 6 things that everything else does because they're not the people writing the letters, even if it's a real human, they're not the ones that make the game. They don't really know how the game works. They only know how to tell you how to do basic, like restart your computer, maybe reformat, like do all these things that eventually you're going to give up or something will fix it. But they're just like really just punch your computer till it works instead of
it made me so mad because I was like, okay, I have a background in customer support. Like that's what I did for a bit. Like I know it's hard. Like people are mean. So I'm trying to be like as open as I can to try all your things. But it was like the second time you asked me to do something again, that's when I'm like, there's something weird going on here, right?
Yeah.
Like it's suspicious. So I think that's what's even messed up is that you're telling people make a support ticket and then your support tickets are just chat bots essentially.
Yeah.
Like that's scummy, if you ask me.
It's frustrating too to be that support person, because I've also been on that side of the phone when I used to work at Amazon doing like customer support for their video thing. Like this was like 10, 15 years ago. And like the amount of times that like, yeah, restarting the router just fixed it is like, it's so high that if I don't do that first and then we do all this other stuff and then the actual restarting of the router is what fixes it, you feel like a real dum-dum that way too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
for sure. Like I always let me tell people to restart their device. Over
yeah,
and over.
yeah. And they're like, I already did that. And like, I know, just do it with me on the phone, because there are people that will tell you they did it and they didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't want to feel like an idiot calling you and they haven't even done that basic thing yet, which I understand, but like, just do it with me on the phone. And yeah, so I would have to get like, yeah, I know you've already done it. If you do it with me on the phone, this makes it easier for me to get your ticket past like the first line of defense here.
Yeah, and then we can high five all around.
That's right. And then when it works, you go, hey, it just needed me to be on the phone with you, I guess. Okay, see you later.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that running joke. That happens every time. If you work customer service, this is a tangent, but if you work customer service, you're gonna hear the same 5 jokes from the customers over and over again, and it's very entertaining for the first year. And
the equivalent.
Like, okay.
It's the item doesn't scan, must be free. At the grocery store.
I can say it because I don't work there anymore. But the job I got laid off from, it was a trucking like GPS company, and the amount of times I would have drivers tell me they wanted to throw it out the window was like every month. And I'm just like, this is too much, man. So okay, the other game I'm playing is Absalom. Have you heard of Absalom?
Very, very briefly. You said it was made by the same people that made Shredder's Revenge.
So the people that made Shredder's Revenge made a roguelike they called it a roguelite beat 'em up called Absalom, where it's like a fantasy setting, and the past branch, and this is where I was getting confused. I actually asked our friend Aaron, check out the High Road podcast. Our friend Aaron, he explained it to me, like, so I was going through a path, like the road forks. We took the lower path. We fought this boss, but then we opened a bridge. And so like the boss, just like Hades, the boss will still be there when I start my new run. But now that the bridge is open, I got a whole new path. So it's like that. It's like branching out paths, and you're trying to get to this big bad evil guy farther down the way. But the fun part is it's co-op, and you can use Steam Remote Play and play it together, just like a beat 'em up. You play on a couch with people, and it's really fun. So yeah, Absalom. It's only like $20 too, or it was like 22 when I bought it. So it's a good time, and I feel like I don't really play a lot of beat 'em ups. I just don't. Like Shredder's Revenge was really fun when we all played that, because that was like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it felt really fun with the 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
This only lets you do 2-player co-op. I wish it was 4. I wish it was 4-player co-op, because it would be really fun if it was 4-player co-op. But I also understand the complexities probably of getting that to happen is a little rough. So, yeah. But yeah, Absalom, check it out if you're interested in that. And that's all I've been playing. Silksong, Absalom, Battlefield 6.
All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've kind of been playing. Sometimes I have something else going on the side. I still dip into Liberty City Stories once in a while, but I haven't played that too much lately. So,
Splatterhouse. I played that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I never mentioned the games that I played for the podcast, just assuming you all know that. But yeah, so with that, I think that's the episode for the day. Right?
That's it.
Yeah. Do we do another spooky game next week, or do we just wait? I don't even know what our plans are here.
I don't know. We're flying by the seat of our pants here.
We are. It's kind of fun. So here's the things you can do to support us. You can go to codexpodcast.net. That's our website. It's got all our links on there. Send us an email at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. You could also just tell your friends about the podcast. That helps us out the most. Leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We're almost at 200 on Apple Podcasts. I want to get there just to be like, look at us. We got 200. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just helps us out a lot. And we're also putting these up on YouTube too. I'm trying out YouTube Shorts. You might see us on YouTube Shorts. Watch people get really mad at us and say really rude things. It's fun. And but it's engagement. Hey. And with that, Tyler, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah. Let me find my button to push to play the outro song.
No, this is good. We're building intensity. Here we go.
Goodbye, everybody.